Hello and welcome to Flooring Models. I'm going to show you the quickest and easiest way to weather your die-cast model. So for this, all we've got is some Flooring Models wash. Okay, so it is available in various colours, but for this particular one, we're going to be using the dark dirt. Now the dark dirt works over pretty much any colour. Okay, so it will go over greens, it will go over greys. You can even use it on black. Obviously, if you're using something with a lighter shade of colour, like white, then you might want to use something like a grey colour or anything else. But basically, over all greys, even like ghost grey, moderns like F16s, F15s, stuff like that, I'd still always use the dark dirt colour. So what we're going to do is a quick disassembly. So we're just going to pop it off its stand, and we're just going to remove a few of the items on here, just so we can get in and clean the actual parts very, very easily to get in there and take them off. Okay, so this is our Tornado. So there's no covers on this. We're not going to put on like a clear coat or a gloss coat or anything else. We're just going to go straight over the actual item. So as always, make sure you give it a really, really good shake to wake it up. This is clay based, so what happens is the clay will separate and it will sit on the bottom a little bit. So you want to shake it, give it a good old shake to wake it up. Once you've done that, pour it into a little dish, probably a little bit nicer than that one. Okay, let's just grab a little bit of this. Okay. Now this is water based, so it's totally safe over the clear parts. It goes over everything on your actual model. It's not going to affect anything. Okay, so what we do, we just take a brush and then we just brush it onto the area. Now if it beads up, and what I mean by beading up, you can probably see it in here, it's not sticking totally, just work it in. All right, so literally just give it a little bit of circular motions to actually rub it into the said model. So what we'll do half to start with, just to show you exactly how good this is, and then we'll do the other half afterwards. Okay, so you can go right the way over absolutely everything, and as I said, if it starts to bead up and it doesn't look like it's flowing very nicely, just give it a little bit more of a rub. The other thing you can do, if you find out it's just not sticking at all, then you can actually just give it a little drop of washing up liquid, okay, or dishwater soap, and that will enable it to break the surface tension and it will make it flow just that little bit easier. So as I said before, you can go right over the clear parts. Okay, we'll just take it down the middle. All right, so because this is on basically a satin finish, it will slightly weather, but most of all it will just stay in all the panel lines. Okay, so as you can see, it's literally as simple as just slopping this on, and to be honest with you, it's a nice smooth finish on this, so the wash doesn't want to 100% stick into it, but it will work. Okay, so then what we do, we're just going to do the underside. Okay. And again, I wouldn't worry about using black washes or anything dark like that. You want it to be a subtle weathering effect on your model. So I'm quite happy to use the dark dirt. Now the dark dirt is basically an oily black, okay? But the great thing is obviously it gives that nice look right the way over all the colours. So it doesn't matter if you're using technically over dark greens or light greys, it will just be the same right the way through. Okay, so that's it on there. As you can see, it's starting to dry on the wing already. We'll leave it off to one side. Exactly the same time, we're going to go around and we're going to do everywhere. So we're going to do the bombs. So we could just give it a coat over those. We're going to do the pylons as well. Absolutely everything right over the entire model. All right, so we just put those over, and again we'll just do a pylons. Again, go right over your greens, go all over your colours, and the thing is, you want to make sure you go absolutely everywhere with it. You don't want any clean spots, because clean spots will look a little bit odd. Okay, so we're just going to go right the way over, just like that, right the way down and over these. Okay. And again, this is water based, so it's totally inert. It's not going to affect anything. It's not going to peel your paint or any of those items. Exactly the same time, if you want to, you can do things like the wheels. So you can just go over the wheels and the gear. Okay, and we can just pop around with all of these areas. And again, you're not being nice with it. You're just chucking it literally all over. Okay, and the same goes down in here, so we can do inside the wheel wells, inside the doors, inside the gear, all of these areas literally just like that. And again, we'll just come in here and we're just going to brush it all around. And again, just make sure it goes absolutely everywhere. If you've got any clean spots, what will happen is that they will wipe away cleanly. Okay, so this is our closed door, so if you wanted to do it gear up, we're just going to put some wash right the way over the top of these. Okay, so we can just do it all literally like that, and then the inside of the doors, sorry, as well. So we just do these, obviously with the gear down. So there's no clean spots, in other words. Okay, so there we go, that's all on there drying like that. So then you can just take, as I say, paper towel, and you can just wipe this off. Okay, literally like that. Now the clay wash will take traditionally around about sort of anything from 10 minutes to 20 minutes to dry. If you want to leave this on, you can leave it on literally as long as you like. You can leave it on a day, a month, a year, whatever. Don't forget, this is literally just clay. So what happens is the clay just gets reactivated with a little bit of water, it rehydrates it, and then it wipes away very cleanly and very easily. So as you can see already on here, it's starting to dry. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take an airbrush. This is just air. And we're just going to dry this back just to speed up the drying time so I can show you exactly what we're doing. And you'll see it will dry quite light, but as you can notice, the panel lines are actually still quite dark. Now the reason the panel lines are still dark is because it's wet in those panel lines. What you need to do is make sure it's completely dry everywhere. So you want it to be dry in the panel lines as well as on the surface, because what happens is if you come along with your tissue or your paper towel and you wipe it, because it's still wet in those panel lines, it will be absorbed into the paper towel and drawn out of the panel lines, and that's the last thing we want, because we want it to stay in the said panel lines. Okay, so this is one of those things. I'm speeding this up because we're doing it in real time, but traditionally you want to leave this for literally around about 20 minutes so it's totally dry. You can see obviously just down in here where it's still dark, okay, on those panel lines, all right, but as I said, this is a good way of knowing it's not ready yet, because you want these panel lines to go light. You notice these ones on the front, obviously they're nice and light. These ones in here, because they're a little bit darker, as you can see, they're still really very dark. These ones on the back, again, this is because it's wet, and as we dry this in real time, I'm literally just hitting it now with an airbrush with just air, you'll see they will start to lighten. Okay, and as they actually lighten, you know it's ready. So you can see this one at the back here starting to dry, it's getting light. So all the time they're dark, do not come in. Okay, because again, all you're doing is wasting your time and you're just drawing it out. As you can see, we're drying off this one at the back, this one all down in here, and you can see now how these are lightening off and they're becoming the same color as the rest of the actual wing. All right, and that's exactly what we want. All right, so you can see it's now starting to dry on these ones down the back here. And what we're going to do, we're just going to flip it over, and you can see the same type of a thing happening under here. And what we want to do is dry this all off. And again, naturally you would normally let this dry all on its own. All right, but we'll show you by doing half and half, you can see a good example of exactly what the wash can do and literally how simple and easy it is. You see how this is now drying off? Again, it's probably the most important part of this, to make sure all the panel lines are totally dry. So what we're going to do, we're just going to keep the air going just for a moment. And again, if you want to speed this process up, you can literally use a hairdryer, warm air, not hot. Obviously you don't want to be making the paint soft by heating it. So literally we're just coming down, and you can see on this wing now how it's literally just drying all off. All right, so we're just going to come down under here, and again, this is one of those areas where just a little bit of patience. And you see up here on the tail, okay, and actually you can see we forgot to do the actual intake. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put a little bit of wash just on this intake, because again, we don't want any clean spots. And again, you can go back and forth and put a little bit more wash right the way over the top. The thing is, if you don't, what happens is you're going to have a clean spot, and a clean spot is definitely what we don't want. So again, but what you'll notice is, as you can see drying this down, it dries really quickly because the clay is absorbing the moisture and basically dispersing it. So if you do find you've got a little clean spot and that's not what you're after, then obviously by all means just give it another coat, so forth and so on, right the way over. So as you can see, it's drying now on the clear parts. It's drying right the way over the model. So we're just going to final dry. Okay. Pretty much all we need, just like that. Okay, so we'll just pop that back in the holder. Okay, so removing the wash is literally as simple as taking good quality kitchen roll. Obviously any kitchen roll will do, but the thing is, if it's not a good quality one, when you wet it a little bit, what happens is it breaks up, and you can leave little fibers all over your model as well, so just be a little bit careful. What I tend to do is just tear it into quarters just to make it a little bit more frugal. Okay, so we're just going to literally wet it like this. Okay, so as you can see, here's our half and half on our tornado done like this. So what we're going to do, just to show you, this is just dry and we haven't wet the cloth, and you can see you can take a lot of the wash away, and if you wanted to, you can give it a little bit of a rub and you can give it a really warm down look. You can see the difference between both, just like that. But if you really want to sort of sharpen it up and make it look just that little bit nicer, if you wet the cloth, and to be honest, yes, I do lick it, back of the hand to knock most of the moisture off, okay? And then what you do, you just do circle motions and you wipe away all the excess wash. So what this enables it to do is the wash then stays in the panel lines. So now you can see how the panel lines are really coming to life, as opposed to the other side where there isn't any, and no matter how you angle it or look at it, you can see this will do. What happens is, as the wash dries, it will lighten just a little bit, okay, which gives it a little bit more natural look. So again, down here on the front, as you can see, same thing, a wet cloth or just a damp cloth. Very careful, don't knock off your pitot tubes and all your details and things like that. But we're just going to go around in this entire area, okay, and we're just going to dry it and give it a bit of a buff. Okay, so you just, and again, you can see on the clear parts, you just give it a wipe and it just comes away. Okay, down under here. Okay, on the underside, we're just obviously doing one side. And again, just mind your aerials and your details and things like that. Okay, and then up under here, same thing on this wing. Again, just moisten the cloth a little bit. This just literally rehydrates the clay and it enables it to be wiped away very cleanly from your model. Okay, just this bit on the back. Again, keeping it dry. Once you've made your initial wipe right the way over, just come in, turn the cloth over to a dry bit and just give it a little bit of a buff. Okay, and there we go. You can probably see the difference between the panel lines on this side and obviously not on this side. So it will literally just weather it all in right the way across. So again, we're just going to pop under this area down in here, around the engines. Okay, just top over the intakes, onto the glass, work our way down the spine. And again, just being a little bit careful that you don't knock any details. Okay, down the back of the fuselage, down toward the burner cans, over these tailplanes. And again, and if you find you get little areas you're having trouble getting into, if you just wet a cotton bud, and obviously you can poke it in a bit of water, you can just give it a little bit of a wipe like this. And obviously we're only doing a half and half effect on here, but we can just literally go down, get into these corners. Okay, all these areas down by the back of the burner cans, and then again just come back in with your cloth just to tidy up and then again the old fin back here, the famous fin of the aircraft, and again you're just working your way around any sharp details like this. So again we'll just come in with a cotton bud just to clean these up just a little bit, clean side of the cotton bud just to buff it all up, and again you can see it's not affecting the paintwork or anything else on the die-cast model paintwork at all. Okay, and there we have now your weathered Tornado, looking very much the part. So if you do a side by side, you can see how now obviously the panel lines are obviously all in on this side, showing right the way through, and all your weathering parts and everything. And then just down under here, as you can see, we've got all the panel lines filled in, obviously none on this side, and again the same on the back right the way through. Okay, so that's that one. So what we'll do is, as you can see, I think that's looking pretty nice. If we fold this back a little bit, you can see the difference between the two. Obviously, I hope you agree, it's a lot stronger. So what we'll do is, we're just going to do the other half now, so it's nice and even, and then we can take the wash off of all the smaller parts. So again, work it into the areas. Do your clear parts as well. And again, if you find it just beads up just that little bit too much and you can't go in, if you add just a tiny little bit of washing up liquid or dishwater soap, you will find it will help break the surface tension, and it will help it flow a little bit. It's just where it's on quite a shiny enamel type surface on these that the wash just has a hard time because it's got nothing to physically grip to. But again, just going to go around the back now. And again, you just want to work it all into these areas. Again, give it as many coats as required. Okay, so just grab the other side. And we can just go on and do these. Onto the tail. And then again, we can just come in and do the other side. And again, you can give it another coat if you wanted to. A couple of coats if you think that it needs a little bit more weathering. And again, if you don't make your cloth very wet, what you can actually do is leave a lot more of the weathering down onto this. Okay, but because this is a actual acrylic, as you can see, you can just go over the top. And as you notice on this side, it's going a lot easier. That's because the actual clay is now on these panel lines, and if you notice on a side by side, this other side will dry a lot quicker, okay, because it's already got a coat in there, so it absorbs it and it will dry and it will go right the way through. Okay, so we'll leave after one side to do its bit. At the same time then, you can just come along and you can clean off everything. So again, wetting a cloth, you can just give it generally a little bit of a wipe round absolutely everywhere, right the way over your weapons and on your pylons and all these things like that. And again, if you find that the colour isn't your particular choice, you know, or you think that you want to go with something a little bit darker, then obviously there is a black wash you can use exactly the same way. So if you wanted to do that, you could do that way. Boom. Or if you wanted to, obviously we've got sand colours, there's browns, there's lots of other colours in the range if you wanted to do that way instead. Okay, so we'll just pop along under these. And again, this is the quickest and easiest way you can ever weather your die-cast models safely without the risk of making any damage or anything. And remember, if you get a little bit of wash that's just stuck, just wet a cotton bud and just get in amongst those details to get them out, just like that. Okay, because all you're doing is rehydrating the clay, and then the clay just manoeuvres off of your model. But there we go, that's that one done, just like that. And we can do the others. Okay, right the way around. And again, if you wanted to use it a little bit more grimy, you can actually not wet your cloth as much, and you can leave a lot more wear and grime and dirt and anything else you want on your model. There we go. There's another one done, just like that. So if we just show you on here, again, if we just get some air. So again, she's just cold air. Okay, you'll see quick job, just drying this. You can see the clay drying. Just on the bottom here. And again, just make sure it's totally dry in all those panel lines. And naturally, it's usually around about 20 to sort of 30 minutes tops, and the clay will be dry. Let's go under here. And again, just by using cold air, obviously it doesn't take long, but if you use warm air, it'll be even quicker. But again, make sure that these go light colour before you try and remove the wash. Main time people say that the wash isn't sticking, it's because it's literally you're taking off when it's wet. You want to wait until this is totally dry before coming in. Okay. You can see it all drying down. And because this side has already got some wash on there, you can just go in there a little bit quicker. But you can see this one on this side has got the second coat, and it's a lot heavier over the top than the other side. The other side's a little bit thinner, that's because it's got one coat. Okay, all drying off. So what we do, we just grab a paper towel, as we were saying before. And what you can do, if you want to do this is dry, okay, you can literally just give it a rub, and you can leave it to be nice and grubby if you wanted to, just on this side. All right, but again, personally, I think you just wet the cloth a little bit, dry it off, give it a rub. And again, when it's had two coats, it's a little bit thicker. Takes a little bit more work to get it off, but I think gives a nicer grimy effect. And then again, we're just going to pop down these middles. One's come off. That's what we're saying about your veins. If you want to, you can just pop them all out first and then pop them in afterwards. So you can just pull them out with a pair of tweezers and then pop them in afterwards. And then again, you can just grab a dry cloth just to somewhat buff it in. You can see that sort of coming in here. And then again, just down in the back. All these areas, nice wipe right the way through. And there we go. You can see it all coming through, and it all dries down. There we go. Just pull that back with probably a pair of tweezers, might be handy. Okay. If I can get a hold of it. cotton bud. Just on the more delicate areas, just down in these. Okay. Just around the pitot tubes, in these corners. Okay, and there's our tornado all done and weathered. Okay, exactly the same with the gear. Again, it's still a little bit wet in those areas, but the rest of them will just give a wipe. Okay, right the way around. Again, you can get with cotton buds just to get in the detailed areas, but if you wanted them to be nice and grimy still, here we go. And again, just down on the inside, down on the outsides. So all the gear areas and everything is all done just like that. So there we go. I hope that shows you just how quick and easy it is to do these. So if we just pop this little guy back together, just wipe this one off. Okay, these under here. And a final little wipe just under here. As you can see, looking very much the part. And there we have our tornado all painted and weathered.